This is the Way of Fairness. My name is Steve. I was working with Copilot AI, and I realized we were talking about what I call transpsychism, beyond mind. And instead of mind-only idealism, it's the undivided oneness. So that mind is not something separate from matter. There are no separate things. There is only undivided oneness, which can be called God. So here's what ChatGPT said, having listened to my definition in a few sentences in the box, and it didn't have the history of developing it that Copilot has. So this is just right out of the gate what ChatGPT has to say about my idea. Transpsychism. You're articulating a coherent philosophical position, and it's more precise than it may first appear. I'll restate it in clearer, more formal terms, then offer some framing so it can stand as a defensible worldview rather than only a spiritual intuition. Transpsychism as you've defined it. Core claim. Reality is an undivided oneness. Consciousness is not separate from the physical, nor merely a mental projection of it, but emerges as the physical becomes self-aware through biological evolution. This places transpsychism beyond classical idealism. Idealism is mind is fundamental, the physical is derivative or illusory. Transpsychism is beyond that. Transpsychism is beyond materialism, which is physical processes are fundamental, consciousness is epiphenomenal or secondary. It's beyond transpsychism. No, this is what transpsychism is. So it's not ideal, it's beyond idealism, and it's beyond materialism. Transpsychism, the physical itself, is the undivided whole. And consciousness is the self-reflective phase of that whole, not something added to it. Next paragraph. Science and spirituality, distinct but complementary. In your framework, science seeks understanding of how the undivided oneness behaves as physicality, as in laws, mechanisms, evolution, causality. Spiritual understanding teaches how to relate to that undivided oneness. Ethics, non-harm, reverence, restraint, responsibility. They are not in conflict because they address different dimensions of the same reality. Ethical consequence of transpsychism. Your concluding statement is the ethical core. If anyone is done wrong, the undivided oneness is done wrong. There aren't any separate things. It's like people have this idea of a soul, or they're controlled with fear of what could happen to their soul. It's a separate thing. That's pretty risky business. With transpsychism, there are no separate things. So the essence of all the people is the undivided oneness. That's what is us. Instead of something being something separate. So we have this idea that there are separate parts, separate people. No, there is just one, the undivided oneness that is in those forms. Okay, so the ethical consequence, if anyone has done wrong, the undivided oneness has done wrong, obviously. This follows logically from your ontology. Ontology, the way I describe it, it's like the study of existence, of our being. It's not understanding the law of gravity. It's understanding ourselves affected by gravity. So it's a philosophy about our experience. In my way of understanding it, you can look up the definition. Maybe I'm wrong on what it actually is. Is it actually a thing? Well, that's an interesting question. It follows that if anyone has done wrong, the undivided oneness has done wrong. Because there are no truly separate beings. Because individual persons are localized expressions of the same whole. Because harm is not transferred across entities. It is inflicted within the same being. So when you harm someone, you're harming God. This aligns with, but is not reducible to, a Buddhist non-duality. Buddhism talks about the empty cup, so that everything's reducible to shunyata, an empty cup. There's not anything. So we have all this stuff going on, and then just silence about it. Silence is golden. It's like that. That's where they all emerges, from that silence kind of thing. Okay, so transpsychism aligns with Spinoza's substance monism. So I don't know exactly what that is. I'd have to look into it. But substance monism sounds a lot like transpsychism, because there's one substance to reality. It aligns with, but is not reducible to, indigenous relational ethics. Aho. So that aho mitakuyasan means to all my relations. So the indigenous people have the idea that the circle's broken when harm is done, and we need to restore the circle, because everything is a circle. Who told them that everything goes in orbits and everything is spherical? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Transpsychism aligns with, but is not reducible to, modern ecological ethics. So I made some writing about our oneness with the animals, how they count the same. I'll put that in another video. Check back for that later. This understanding that is given to us from transpsychism, from going beyond mind, see, that's just my way of describing it. I'm describing a thing. It's a thing that I'm describing with those words, with that word. So it's a process of understanding our oneness, our wholeness. And there aren't separate things. So when we harm the earth, we're harming God, to put it in a simple way. I've got some writing on earth also that I have done recently that I'll be making a video about, and Earth's spiritual spirit of sacrifice to serve the whole. Okay, continuing with ChatGPT. Yet transpsychism differs by grounding this unity explicitly in physical evolution. So unity is a concept of mind. See, the undivided oneness is already there. It's already what is before mind hits the scene. So it's kind of like the metaphor of first there was darkness and God said, let there be light. So the light of consciousness happens through evolution, and it's not separate from its mother. It's an extension of its mother. So the physicality is still the physicality. Now it's conscious. So now it's light. Now we can see it. Now there are eyes for it to see itself and learn of itself. So, see, this is not distasteful to atheists or to mystics. It's distasteful to rigid religious dogma and doctrine, which this is an alternative to that. It's kind of almost like having your cake and eating it too, because the spirituality is here, the God is here, but it's not somewhere else. It's just this. And God had no consciousness until random evolution created consciousness. Now God is aware of God. God wasn't even aware of God. And now God is aware of God because of evolution. And evolution is God. Evolution is a form of the undivided oneness. So there's not separate things. There's physicality is conscious. Consciousness is physicality. So anyway, continuing on, transpsychism differs from these other systems of thought, Buddhist non-duality, Spinoza's substance monism, and indigenous relational ethics. It differs it's not about metaphysical mind or divine command. That's how it differs. The only boss is the one thing itself, which is us. It's not separate. So the command is whatever happens next, so to speak. And there's not some metaphysical mind separate from creation, that God's soul's separate. There's just God. That's all there is. So, to continue, what makes transpsychism distinct? 1, it's not panpsychism. You are not claiming that electrons think, but that consciousness arises when physical systems reach sufficient integrative self-reference. So, there are no separate electrons. You know, they have the idea that there's one electron. There are many things pointing toward this idea. So we don't have a separate mind that created. It's like in Sikhism, one of the most recent religions, Ekankar, one creator creation. And you ask them, are you theists? No, we're not. They don't even talk about God. They talk about Ek, the flow of life. One thing happens after another. So you could say God is that. God is one creator creation. And you could say that God is transpsychism, the understanding of undivided oneness. God is undivided oneness. So it's not panpsychism. There aren't separate things to be seen as with unity. There isn't anything to unify. It's all one thing. It's not idealism. You are not demoting the physical to illusion or secondary status. That's what idealism does. Idealism says the mind creates matter in some mystical way. Like a dream is reality. So, what happens with that is you have a big God fight. So who's the boss of the mind? Who's the big mind with all the power? The ego that says, you better do what I tell you. With this idea, there's no separate individuals. The undivided oneness is all of us. And it's like our body. We're born in darkness in the womb, and then there's light, and then we start learning about what we are, who we are, what the world is. So the physical body became conscious in the same way that the physical body of reality became conscious, metaphorically, as a parallel development. As it's a pedagogical stunt. It's a way to comprehend what I'm explaining. So, the body-mind, it's not separate. Number 4 of what makes transpsychism distinct. Ethics is ontological, not imposed. So morality is not a social contract or divine rule. Who makes the laws? Somebody else? It's a direct implication of what reality is. It's what reality is that makes the law. And the law of the way of fairness is the law of fairness. That's the fundamental law, is don't do others wrong. It's like the golden rule. So that's an ontological aspect of reality, and that's an aspect of our existence itself. It's one thing. See, it's like I could say lots of things about it, but there's no need. It's like in Zen Buddhism, they say you don't need to put legs on a steak. So there's so many things that are all in agreement with this. But the people that insist that God created everything as a separate being will fight against this idea. They can. So our ethics of not doing anyone wrong leads to don't judge, don't blame, don't fight. Instead, forgive. Let them do whatever they want. We're asking for help from the undivided oneness, and magically it appears, or through a prayer being granted, we receive protection from the others, from something unknown. Okay, to continue the last paragraph, a concise formulation, if you wish to present it, as follows. You might summarize transpsychism this way. Transpsychism holds that reality is an undivided physical oneness that becomes conscious of itself through biological evolution. Science investigates the structure and behavior of this physicality, while spiritual understanding recognizes the ethical necessity of non-harm, since injury to any part is injury to the whole. If you'd like, I can help you A. Sharpen this into a formal philosophical thesis. B. Contrast it rigorously with panpsychism, neutral monism, and non-dual idealism. Buddhism is quite I think it's an idealist belief. They're kind of like mind only. Anyway, C, ChatGPT can help me to develop its ethical implications, justice, violence, ecology, responsibility. It ends its comments with, "You are clearly not speaking loosely here. You're outlining a genuine metaphysical position." Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. Check back with what's going on here. It'll blow your mind.